One day about 12 years ago, a few of us guys happened to get together and the conversation got around to complaining about the way things were being handled in Washington, D.C. After a while, Eric, later to become Representative Eric Smith, told us we needed to have an Article 5 convention of the states. I didn't know what he was talking about at the time, but didn't say anything. I filed it away in my head as something I probably ought to look into. At that time, I was still driving a truck, and while at a fuel stop, I wanted to get some coffee. There were some men hanging around complaining about the government, and one of them said something like, "How much longer do you think people will put up with this before we have another civil war?" And that bothered me a lot to hear that. And the only time in recorded history that a war of this type has ever reduced the size of government was our American Revolution. And I'm pretty sure the only reason that is because George Washington didn't want to be a king. And war is not the answer. A short time later, I came home to find Kim, my wife, upset about things she'd heard on the news. Without going into details, it was more of the same kind of government overreach that mentioned earlier. After we discussed it a while, she said, "All I ever hear is a lot of talk and nobody does anything." I realized it was time for me to get more involved. Remembering what my friend Eric had said that day, I Googled Article 5 convention and found Convention of States Project, started by Citizens for Self-Governance by people like Michael Ferris, Mark Meckler, and endorsed by Mark Levin. I saw what they were trying to do, and I read Article 5 a couple times, and I wondered why we haven't already done this, and became a volunteer for Convention of States. I've been coming up here regularly since 2015, doing my part to get the Kansas legislature to do theirs. The U.S. Constitution and especially Article 5 make it clear that the states are to be in charge. I ask you to pass SCR 1604 to the floor and help make Kansas an applicant for an Article 5 Convention of the States. Thank you for hearing me.